Second annual Soulogy Fest up on Mulberry Mountain in Ozark, Arkansas. August 26th, 27th, and 28th. We're going to have some great presenters and some great performers. And over half of those performances will be by people who attend. We're going to continue to tap into the spontaneous, imaginative, creative, intuitive, and courageous, the I Am Soul. I Am Soul. We're both waiting on our eyes to come back, as we've been told.
Right.
Oh, wait, there's a whole bunch of
them. There's too many of us.
Yeah.
Back up.
Not very many pulled up yesterday.
I'm in there as I'm holding like a crystal ball.
Is that you?
Could be. Can we open it up? No, because that'll click you in.
Wait, let's try it. Hello, everybody. How many we got here? 22 in the house.
Hello.
We'll be right with you.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll figure it out afterwards.
Okay. That sounds good.
We'll
All
just
right.
do it afterwards.
Great.
Okay.
Hey.
So, what's happening, everybody? Let me pull up the comments in case anybody has any questions. This is the perfect type of way to start the day for us, because everyone knows that we do everything spontaneously, intuitively, creatively, imaginatively, and depending on what we're talking about or doing, courageously. We call it the I Am Soul. This is Deborah Moore. She's a friend of Serena's, Ty's partner, Serena, our friend. And, Serena had said, hey, I might know somebody. And I'm like, hey, anyone that you know that you feel like, schedule them. Let's do it. So it's nice to come into Sedona and actually meet people. So anyway, you sent me a message, and I don't think I got to it or something, and then another one came, and then finally I went to to your page, and I saw that picture. That's the first thing I saw.
Yeah.
The one that I put up with the post, and I'm like, I know this lady. Yeah. I think I wrote you a note and said I know you, and you're like, yeah, not in this lifetime, but I get it.
We know each other.
But yeah, so how long have you been in Sedona?
2.5 years. Since I have been nomadic for the last 12. I left corporate 12 years ago, went to India, and I was living in California and took off and traveled around, and then I was in Arkansas for 10 months. I lived in Fayetteville.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And through a friend that I met in India. And I was in Arkansas doing workshops through CSL and ORI.
What are those?
CSL is the, I think it's Center for Spiritual Living.
Okay.
And ORI is the, what's the mountains?
Ozark
Research Institute. And they're primarily dowsing and healing.
Oh, I've heard of these people.
They're really
that's
nice
where the
group.
SoulogyFest is in Ozark Mountains. Yeah.
Yes.
So is this the group? I think it is, because if you go to northern Arkansas and you follow the Missouri border, there's a whole, that's the Ozarks.
Yes.
It goes deeper, but I mean,
yes.
So there's a line of Ozarks.
Yeah.
But I heard that up north, not too far from where the festival is, that there's a group there. I don't know if it's the same group, but I know they've been established for a while, and they were actually getting some land, and I even heard of a group that was going to build 3 pyramids.
Different group. Different group. But it had come out of actually naval intelligence, the originator of the group, and did healing work, and he created a modality, and his wife Gladys continues the group and has taught there and is very much involved in the dowsing community.
What's his name? What was his name?
I'm sorry.
You're just like me.
Yeah. I'm not good with that.
Well, there was another guy up there, James something, that was pretty prolific. And, of course, Dolores Cannon was in that direction.
Yes, she was.
So are they based in the Ozarks?
Yes.
Okay.
They're in Fayetteville.
We need to make contact.
Yes.
We need to make contact.
They're an excellent group.
Maybe they want to come
healers.
And,
they're having a conference in the fall as well.
Oh, wow.
Something to consider to go to and talk
to
people.
How did this, I got so much stuff to unpack with you. Like, here's this nondescript, under the radar, like so many of the feminine energy, And I just picture you walking through the streets of India going, oh, that was like walking
Many
around.
lifetimes ago. Many lifetimes ago. And I used to have dreams years back. But for me, what happened was I came in awake, and the energies that I carried were meant to come in to help, as Dolores Cannon would say through the first wave. I'm indigo for sure. But I'm also very empathic.
Yeah.
And my family didn't understand, of course. Westerners aren't taught these things.
Right.
So we do our best. I put myself asleep, if you will. I took a fall, had a head injury, and I walked through normal life. And in my early 30s, I had awakening. I was in a geology group in the Mojave Desert for 10 days.
Okay.
And my mother had passed some time prior, and my father had just passed.
Now you're in your 30s.
I'm 32.
And you've been asleep, or you've gone semi dormant.
Yes.
For a bit. Okay.
Yes. I mean, I didn't understand my capabilities.
Right.
And as the first thing that came to me were, I call them the Anasazi grandmothers, and they still walk with me.
Anasazi, yeah.
Yeah, they're very,
I know who
the
they
ancient ones, right?
Yeah, and they're in this region, or just south of here, right? Yeah, that's a synchronicity there.
Yeah. So, and I also connected into Supai at that time. I went into, you know what Supai is?
No.
In the Grand Canyon, 8 miles down. It's an 8-mile trek down. The Havasupai is a Native American tribe. And so I was going in and out of the canyon. I almost moved here then, but I met my teacher and ended up back in California. And he was Native American, but he taught me Tibetan Buddhism. So we went into high mind teachings and consciousness, and how to transform, to go inside, to recognize yourself, to recognize what you're doing, and to start transforming. And it's an alchemy. And that's what I do with serious folks that are ready to really take that walk inside and recognize how we have been so conditioned, and there is a way out. And for me, having been an empath, my parents were wonderful people, and they both came out of families that argued.
Right.
And they made the agreement not to.
Right.
But the problem is they didn't know what to do with the anger, so they suppressed it.
Right.
My being an empath, I came in and had a temper. I was actually the release valve, right?
You had a temper?
Oh my God. And I was the release valve for the family. And they didn't understand, and neither did I. But in my transformation, as I went in, I start recognizing I was like a vacuum for other people's anger, and I would I would work it out for them. But meanwhile, I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't really angry about stuff.
Right.
So in it, I began to witness how energies were coming in on me versus my anger. And I started shifting and changing inside. And I found that for the most part, I'm not really that angry.
Right. Well, you know what? This is interesting because I have a daughter like that. I've got 6 kids. And one daughter I knew from the get-go was kind of like an old soul.
Yeah.
And she had that type of behavior. Now that you're telling me this, and I'm thinking back, because the past, the present, everything's starting to
comes together.
I can see where she was drawing all that in, both ancestral and locally in the family, and how she was the, what did you call
Conduit.
it? The conduit, yeah. And I'm a friend of mine from Germany, a beautiful lady that I was, kind of talking to at the time. We were just friends, but she actually, because my daughter's mother had died, and it hadn't been too long either. It'd probably been a year, and I'd been on the streets, and we came back together. So it was kind of a intense set of circumstances or dynamics. But But yeah, there was definitely, because the energy was high. I was waking up. I was very empathic as well, and there was something going on. And eventually, this friend of mine, and actually her transition mother, we hooked up and we pulled some stuff out of her. They did. I just was holding space. But yeah, I could tell it feels the same. And your story is very similar to the people that come on here. 3,700 episodes. You know, I was born this way. I kind of went to sleep. Typically, it's because nobody believes them and nobody understands them.
You have no training.
Yeah, and then you get hit on the head, sometimes literally like you did and I did. I had several of them, actually. But and then you come back. Now, you said this happened when you were in your 30s.
I woke up.
And what was that like? Was there something that just kind of triggered it? I know you were talking about where you were at the time.
Well, the grieving, actually, of having both my parents gone at 32.
Wow.
And so I was in a group of 40 people, and the one day I decided not to go on the hikes, and one of the men had built a medicine wheel. And it was my first introduction to Native American, which was interesting considering how much of that energy I actually hold from past lives.
Right.
But I was a Western white woman, you know, and now I'm having visions and being told things. And the main message I remember is look only towards yourself, look towards no one else.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it for decades and questioned whether or not I should have teachers. And then I finally got that, I need to go inside.
Yeah.
And just no matter what's going on out here, it's a reflection of what's inside.
Right.
And when we can begin to own it, whatever is going on out here, our triggers are ours.
That's right.
We've been taught humanity, and I'd say 13,000 years of suppression. So we're just really coming out of it. 87 was the harmonic convergence when the 4D anchored onto the planet again for the first time.
Right.
And because the grid work had gotten relit in the 50s, and it hadn't been for thousands of years. And so here we are now. It's like, okay, we've all been taught to go outside. We've all been taught to, don't trigger me. It's your fault. You're triggering me. All right. And now it's like, okay, do you own that feeling? And can you, because we transcend through our feelings, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I call it like taking it the crust of the earth. And that anger or whatever it manifests for you, jealousy, hatred, needing to control, everybody does that one, right? Whatever that is, it's like we've picked up a crust of the earth, and if we hold it inside and feel, it normally shows up in one of our chakras, and just allow the energy with our consciousness, feel that energy within our body, because it's in the subconscious, our body holds the subconscious. We bring it up and we let it release just by staying with it, just by feeling it. And as we do that, our whole physical mechanism shifts.
Yeah.
These, I call them earth suits. We can't have a 3D experience without them.
That's right.
Right? They're precious. And the journey of ascension is going into the body, not going out of the body.
Yeah.
And I, spent a lot of time outside my body as a child, particularly,
So
getting away from
most of these
it.
people here can relate to that.
Yeah. And it's hard to get into the body because then we're educated and we analyze and everything, we get these concepts and they're great concepts. But do you experience them? Do you realize them? It's when you realize it, it's something that cannot be taken away from you.
Right.
It's visceral. It's just present in you.
That's right.
It goes into the bones.
God, this is great. I love this. Okay, so where do I want to start? Well, first of all, you're very well put together.
Taken a long time.
And, this is what I find that I resonate with the most. This is what I find that resonates with our community is, someone who's carrying the clarity of the connection and the information and the wisdom, the sacred wisdom, and maybe modalities and processes. But that is truly human. That is truly saying my human being is on point. All this stuff is great, but I came into this with it.
Right.
So here's where the value is, and that's becoming more. I think it's becoming more prevalent as we're all eating humble pie. My thing is like. I look, and I totally agree with you. It's never them; it's always me. And you see a lot of relationships of all types that are really being intensified now.
Yes.
And for myself, whether it's in my relationships or whether it's in my work or anything that happens, I really like the way that you explained it because I haven't been able to really articulate it. But for me, it's never them; it's always me. And what I've been doing recently is as a quantum observer that creates, knowing that what leaves here, okay, is going to be what happens. So in other words, we have something go on, and I start thinking, oh, she's kind of rude, or she's like this, or she's like that.
The judgments of the mind.
Yeah, I'm actually casting that upon you. Your field may or may not be able to withstand it, or it may take it on, especially with these empaths, So it's so important, our thoughts, and I'm really seeing that's where things change. And what I've noticed on a much more evidentiary scale, like it's much more prominent. It's much more, okay, that's not me just making it up. Where I control my energy, I'm actually doing this today with circumstances, and I go, okay, I'm just gonna, this is all I can control, and that's it. It's all me. So I just carry it forth that way. But I've watched this happen actually since I've been in Sedona this month, where things just work themselves out.
Yes, they do here,
Right?
particularly when you're meant to be here. The energies support you, and when you're not, they kick you out, and it's okay.
That's happened too.
Yeah, I've been there.
My 10th time here. So are you in Sedona proper?
No.
Okay.
I'm about 30 minutes south.
You were.
I'm out in Clarkdale. I just moved.
Okay.
I just finally got my own space for the first time in my life.
You're kidding.
Oh, and the last 12 years I've literally been nomadic. I was in Bali for almost 3 years prior to Sedona. And what I didn't know is a week before I left, that I didn't know I was leaving the next week, was I went through an initiation, and something, an aspect of the feminine that came to me in 2006 when I was there actually landed in me. In
it was you.
February,
Aspect of you.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, what I heard at the end was the ley lines of Bali, which have been too awoken, were lying in my heart, and she came in and she said, okay, now I'm in you. So that was very
let's
cool.
go to Sedona.
And then what happened was I started getting all these videos about China, and I went, and some things that I was trying to build down there, and I couldn't find any land, and that was, everything came to me.
In China?
No, in Bali.
Oh, I got you.
And it wasn't happening. And so when I got the videos from China, I was like, oh, this is big, and it's going to go, and what's going to happen. And I knew intuitively, but I didn't want to leave. So I messaged 6 friends that are all psychic, and I said, I'm thinking I need to leave, and every one of them came back, yeah, now.
Wow.
And then one of them came back and said, well, and this was February 3rd of 2020, and she said to me, they're going to shut all the airlines down.
Now, this is your psychic friend. Okay.
And they're going to shut all the airlines down. Do you want to stay in Bali for the duration, or do you want to come back? And everything was like, go back to the States. So I packed my 2 bags, and I looked at them and I said, if it's a nothing burger, in 2 months I'll be back.
If it's a nothing burger.
If it's a nothing burger. So...
Are you...
What?
Keep going.
Okay, so I have a friend that moved from California to Cottonwood in 2019, and she said, come here, We expected it to be a couple months. It was a couple years.
Wow.
Which was a commitment we didn't realize we had. But she's worked with me a long time.
You figured it out once you got...
She went through some lifetimes and cleared them out, which was awesome.
Okay.
And then I was released and found my own place.
Wow.
And this is like, now my energy is ready to ground, and I'm so excited because I've been...
Today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, how long have
right
you been in
now.
your own place in Clarksville?
Less than a month.
Wow.
3
Congratulations.
weeks. Thank you.
So, all this stuff's happening 1st of June, or July.
Yeah.
I got here the first week of July. And,
Yeah.
I was told to come.
Yeah.
I had the
yeah.
festival going on.
Right.
And I kept...
So much.
Yeah, and she, and Mother Sedona just, you're coming. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. And then there was a there's been a full-scale bunch of initiations this time.
Yes.
But they haven't been like they were before here, which can kind of go, ooh, like that.
Yeah.
These have been very intense, very, very expansive. And even last night.
Yeah.
Even last night was...
We're close.
Yeah.
We're close to the turning off of the old, and all of us that have been in the waiting. And I tried to step out before. I mean, I have clients, and I used to do workshops, and people would come on board with me, and but I was never allowed to do this. So this is the first interview that Spirit has allowed me to come on.
Well,
and
I'm
speak
sitting
to
here
people.
going, I'm going to be here another week? We have to get you back on here again.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff we can talk about. I can already
Tons.
see it. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
all happening up here.
Right.
Getting you. Yeah, so you are truly representative of what is stepping forward. And I know it's not all perfect. It's not a perfect science because
No.
what it is in you is also coming up in me and everybody else, which
Yes.
I would only say, I could only describe it as the mother goddess energy or the feminine energy. Not that the masculine's not at work here, because that's
Right.
been very,
There'll be a balance.
yeah, that's been a very obvious thing this month as well. But
Yeah.
but what I'm getting to is we've always had, this platform is a platform of the voices of the mother goddess as we understand it. And that, of course, that means everybody. But in the physicality,
Yes.
there is a common denominator. It's a woman who's been connected for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably been estranged from her family.
Mm-hmm.
Same story as you, but they're getting the call over these last few months. It's time to come out.
Yep.
And I'm fascinated by it because a lot of the energy that I was shown before I got here, like I'd say probably the week to 10 days, it was all maternal. It was all the mother, women councils. Continued when I got here. It's been all very feminine. And that's what I'm getting. I'm getting like, okay, we're coming out now. You're our collaborator. Because I keep saying, why am I the only man in the circle? And they'll be like, well, you're one of us, but in this incarnation, you're carrying something that looks different, but it's not. The same thing.
It's not. We have to do both. In prior lives, I perfected the masculine. And in this life, the feminine that I held in Mu will be coming in, because that was mother energy. And that's, so one of the things I pray for in the chaos of our world, and as it becomes exposed to the masses, which I do believe we're on, the doorstep of, is that our inner connection to our own divine.
Yeah.
So in the old world, we were taught how to do personality and how to do ego, and just about all of our thoughts are ego based.
Right.
All right. So in this mechanism, we have thinking mind, and so it belongs to this mechanism. The third part is our eternal beingness. And that's what we've been separated off from or disconnected. People say, oh, I'm not intuitive. Oh, this mechanism is absolutely intuitive. But the mind we've disconnected. So do we have a natural knowing? I have guides that have talked to me all of my life. I remember at 3 when I fell and hit my head, and I told them I can't do this world as awake as I am. So we're going to shut it down. You can continue to talk with me, but I don't want to see you, and I can't do both. And so as I woke up and did my own inner transformation, I began to hear them, and I began to realize I always heard them.
Right.
I just didn't, my mind just discounted it, or I would go in that direction, but it was never an understanding that I was getting guidance coming in.
Right.
So the more we open up our own mechanism, the more we clear it of the subconscious suppressed energies that we call negative, all right, a very interesting alchemy occurs. We have the positive, the negative, the good, the bad, the right, the wrong. You do that way, they do that way. Which one is right? When we can neutralize both sides, we come into a paradox. And when we can hold the paradox in us, we're in presence. And we're not in judgment. We don't, all this isn't going on. We're at peace, and our dynamics within the physical body shift and change. Our DNA activates.
That's right. That's right. Speaking our language here, I'm curious with you, and because of the way you're so unaffected, I would say, unaffected.
Neutral.
Yeah, because I mean, it is a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Not everybody is having these things happen at 3, or at least they don't have in their memory banks. But it's a lot for people, especially since 2012. There's a lot of people, myself included, you know, they have these divine episodes, they have these visitations, they have these past life memories.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit of a challenge to the ego.
Right. It sure can.
So I want to go a couple places with it. One, I'm curious just from a, just my childlike wonder. So there's always the talk of aspects that we communicate with. Everybody has their own experiences.
Okay.
Mine's similar, I think, to a lot of people's. You know, I had 12 come in when I reawoke.
Okay.
6 of them, really all of them, ended up becoming embodied.
Yes.
You know, it was I guess a personal kind of a experience, but that was the gist of it. Now, there's this external type of or seemingly external type of communication, yet there's the internal communication, and somewhere in between, I don't know, whatever, right? I'm just curious with you, do you consider anything external that you're communicating with, such as you and I right now, but in the ethers, or is it all coming from inside you? How does that feel? You know what I mean?
We're multidimensional.
Yeah.
All right. And the more we connect into the body, and the body activates.
Right.
And its abilities activate, and the mind isn't closing it off. Our antennas go up.
Right.
Where are they? Well, maybe our guides are coming in and saying, Deborah, it's time to leave Bali. So how does they get the message to me? Because I'm not wanting to leave. Right. So it's like, I know enough to ask. And then the information came back. What if 3 said yes and 3 said no? I still know the answer.
Right. So this is good. This is really good. And I just want to kind of go back over it and restate it, because I think it's helpful to all of us. So it's really a mix, because I know, and I could just say it's my soul. Oh, that's kind of difficult. I would say it's more like friends or family. But I clearly see some messages pushing me certain directions. Yet the internal compass is there.
Yes,
it's there. But this, I can feel it, and I know everything is one at the end of the day, and we can all talk about all this different. But and I don't even want to go there.
Yeah.
But to me, it feels like this.
Yeah.
It feels like I have friends. You know, when I met my wife in 2015, and I started having a conversation with somebody on a daily basis about these things we're talking about, I'd say, well, okay, we're all one, and I'm totally, I got that one. We all got that download, but you're there and I'm here. So
Isn't that awesome?
I know.
So I look at it as we're all source, all right? Those of us with souls, and there are many on this planet without.
Can you take a sidebar there and explain that to us? Now, let me just see if maybe I can catch this.
Okay.
Dolores Cannon, Edgar Casey, Franco de Nicola talked about, what is it, NPCs or background people. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of them came with souls initially and have lost them in the process by going into the dark side, the evil energies of the dark.
Right.
All right. So we're at the lowest part dimensionally that we can still come back up in consciousness.
Right.
And we do that by our connection with our eternalness. All right. We can say our higher self. We can say our soul. I like to say soul because of my past upbringing was,
too.
Catholic, which I left when I was 16 because I understood the church was different than the divinity.
Right.
And I don't use the word God that often because the projections onto what God is and isn't is not my understanding. To me, gods are ETs. Most of the gods of our Bible are ETs, and I hope that doesn't challenge anybody, but our divinity is in here.
Yeah.
All right. And, I've been watching Star Wars, the Force.
Right.
It's there. I watch the Force as I'm opening up inside of me, the Force is like showing me stuff. Do I see it? Right? Most of us walk around blind. We don't see it. But as we open up and are allowing ourselves to see more. So I always connect in, and it's not a religious thing. It's a grounding, loving thing to not only have personality and ego in the third dimension, but to actually have a relationship with your divine. And that feeling, those knowings, they're coming from your source codes, from your soul that was a spark of the source energy. And so many churches will say, don't put God before you. Well, God is within me. It's not outside of me. My divinity sits in me. I sit inside my soul. My soul surrounds me. All right. All of us, we birth within our soul. Where it's not outside, and yet it's in and out, but it's not like the way the mind separates it.
You said something, I got to restate it because I have not seen but one or two people talk about this. And I'm coming from the same place you are. I'm all for our connections to what we call star family or ET. I question every voice that comes into me, every single thing I encounter. It's just innate for me. But there is, and again, I also feel like that, we create these playgrounds. I'm not into the Far Eastern where it's like, it's nothing, there is nothing, or, it's just, I'm more like, okay, wait a minute, we created this, we have an opportunity right now to expand and share that, right? But on the narrative of what you're talking about with the sacred text, including the Bible, there is a strong proposition to be considered that somebody had intention, just like some of the aspects that they're contained within my body. It might be an Andromedan specialist in a certain part of my mission, that if it's a very loud voice, I might go too far into that, ignoring other things and being out of balance. I mean, it's possible. But now, I think what you're talking about is something, and I'm not saying that it was, malicious or anything like that. Somebody came in, created a story. That story basically says that ETs are our creators and our gods. I don't agree. But I'd like to hear more about it because I feel like whatever created them created us, kind of thing. But I'd like to hear more about what your thoughts are, if you don't mind.
Well, it's interesting. When I first connected with ETs, I was rather annoyed by them. And it was in dream state. And I would come home to my apartment in the dream, and I would know they were there, and the pillows they left and things they left, anything with their energy, I threw out. Because they too are in their own ascension.
Right.
They too are in physicality, even if that's a fifth dimensional physicality,
Right.
doing their own ascension work. So they're not source. All right. They are maybe more connected to
They're
source.
like me and you. They're just in a different timeline and dimension. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Now, we've been suppressed far more than many of them.
Yeah.
All right.
Way more.
And I may get guidance from them, but I have yet to really acknowledge them.
Well, you know, this is very interesting. I have a friend, I don't know if you know him, he's transitioned a year ago, October. Franco De Nicola, his intel was probably one of, I'd say, top 5 to 7, 8 people I've ever met. We did about 50 plus shows together. And we had total recall from other planetary incarnations, and when this was formed, he was 13,000 years ago. His narrative follows, sounds like it follows what you were referring to earlier. But toward the end, when he got COVID, we both got it at the same time. I went through the initiations. I came out of it 5 days later, and he was already in, by human terms, he shouldn't have been walking.
Right.
He was already 3 organs were gone.
Shutting
and
down.
Heart was gone. But anyway, toward the end, because he was always working, always connected. Some of his team was Star Family. Some was, let's just say, iconic divine essences, as many of us have had. But in that last week, he decided to only answer to his soul. And it really struck me when his partner Kimberly told me about this, and I thought, you know what? Because when I met him, which was actually a year ago when we did the SoulogyFest, he stayed with me for a couple of nights after it was over, and I asked him, "Who are you talking to? Who are they? You know, where do they come from? Well, you know, what's their agenda, and so on and so on." I think it's healthy for us to have these conversations. We would have them with each other. You know?
Yes,
you know what I mean?
absolutely. And we have had millions of lives
Absolutely.
in all types of forms. We are our own universe incarnated here in the third dimension. And yes, we have star brothers and sisters. For me, that was not my directive this lifetime.
Right.
Okay. Sure, it showed up in prior lives, more so. In this lifetime, it was about me learning to evolve my connection with my eternal beingness, clearing my emotional body, maturing, allowing that wisdom mind to come in, because it hasn't always been there, trust me, and becoming a better human being.
Yeah.
Because we need to take this DNA with us. It's imperative for the universe.
It's new coding.
It is.
I mean,
And it's important coding.
yeah. I mean, it's really the coding that we're offering the universe now, especially
Yes.
after we obviously
Millions of us have come in, so some of us will get it out. And we don't know who, not all of us are necessarily going to be able to do a transition with taking our body with us.
I got you.
It might be
So
5 people
Yeah.
out of millions of light workers that have come in from all over the universe
Yeah.
to come in and work with the earth to have this occur.
God, we're right on the same page. I'm wondering, I'm getting chills.
Yeah.
So that's a great point, because it only takes one anyway. One of us
exactly
does it.
right.
But that's the way I see
And
it.
we'll
Like,
all celebrate.
yeah, and
right?
so we're going through the motions. We get to this time that's been prophesized by so many different things, and of course we can feel it and look at the stars, whatever. And so many of us, we're getting information. We're getting, and even today, we're getting specific information. But that's meant to push us further into our own self-awareness in this new territory that we are plowing for the universe. So now I feel like, and it's been this way a while, like so maybe 18 months, a couple of years, they're actually learning from us now, because we are the boots on the ground. So we think that these mundane, elementary, rudimentary things that we do as a human being, we think they're nothing, but they're everything. the way that we interact right now is rippling through all timelines and dimensions, and the coding that we're creating that could not be created before because you didn't have these circumstances is our universal offering. And I believe that it's an extremely important thing, not because we're here and we're special, although we are, but because it's never been done from this dense of an environment.
It has not. And many of us, and I'll ask you the question, and the first number that comes up, how many ascensions have you gone through in the universe?
Oh, that's a big number.
Cool.
Yeah, my number's like, I don't even know, like 10,
Right.
10, what is that, 11 figures? And
Okay.
it looks like a counter, like it's going,
Right,
It's
right.
still
That's
counting.
why you're doing this, because you're in the advanced team, and you're finding all the people that are here to give information out. That's awesome. So what I was told is that once you've gone through the first 4, you become part of an ascension team. And people that have worked with me are at different levels of their taking that on. And they wanted to come in and do it. This is a hard one to do it in. All right? I mean, they're all hard when you're
Can you think
embodied,
of any
but-
harder one? Anyone that's had your level and that where they've actually been in there, like even people that, like Franco, were involved in the creation of it. They've all said it's been the toughest. It's the toughest one so far, which it makes sense. It makes sense.
It's
right?
because of the distortions.
Yeah.
And the other part that I heard about a year ago and just resonated with me. So, information that comes from the external, I just, I take it in, and it more and more shows up, and it's the distortions. There are more distortions at this level, that the dark side has gotten out of control.
Yeah.
Beyond what source wanted to experience. And so we are literally rolling up the 3rd dimension.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's no easy task.
Some people are saying, and just for the sake of discussion, I'm not looking to, we're not debating each other
don't
or
know.
y'all or anyone
We don't
out there.
know.
But talking about that there is only one timeline now.
Yes, I've heard that. And
Or maybe restated,
and
there's
maybe
two.
and,
maybe.
and maybe there's different octaves.
True.
Okay.
Well, it seemed like there would be, because that's the way the universe is constructed.
Right? Yeah. So, we want to do things very linearly, right? And make it and simplify it. And we don't really know how any of it's going to turn out completely, although we're told by those in the future that we're going to make it. What twists and turns and how long it's going to take us, is up to us. And that's why I go back to do your inner work. Sit inside yourself. Back in 2013, I was doing a lot of ancestral clearing. And I was, I had this thing with my mom. And I woke up after, decades of clearing things. I woke up really pissed off at her, And I just couldn't believe how much anger was up. And it was like, what is this about? And through a series of events, all internal, I was sitting by the water one day, and I heard, your anger is her anger. And I said, what are you talking about? And they said to me, all the females in the lineage that I'm in all have gifts, and they were shut down decades back. Now I'm an Irish. Both grandmothers were Irish.
There's the temper.
Yes, exactly. And I was shown that they wanted to protect the DNA so that the gifts, our soul's gifts can only be expressed in DNA that can handle the gift.
Okay.
All right. So we chose certain families, not because of the family, but for the DNA. All right.
Okay.
So don't be hard on yourself about that. All right?
Which would explain why so many people like you and me went into families and they were the quote unquote black sheep, really the rainbow sheep. But that as an empath I guess they're the catalyst for the reformation or transformation of the DNA.
Yeah, they had it, they held it. And so I said, I want to know who shut it down. I want to talk to them. And this Celtic woman showed up, actually to the right of me. And she said, I did it. And I said, why? And she said, because when the Vatican sent the priest to Ireland to chase the snakes, what they were doing was killing the goddess energy. And any child who was prolific, and children that are prolific, they start seeing and saying, because they don't have any filters,
Right.
at 2 and 3 as soon as they talk. And if the village was recognizing that your child was prolific, they were killing them.
Yeah.
So they were ending the DNA line. And so she set it in play to protect it. And here's the other thing for many of you out there that we share, is that I'm a family pattern breaker.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm breaking the patterns within me in this life, and it's affecting all of my ancestral lineage that has been caught in the patterns.
Anytime we hit 111, we have to pay attention to what's being...
Right? Yes.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And this is a lot of the memory. People talk about it. We get lost in all the different narratives. Oh, no, this is the details. This is what happened. But if you feel into the energy of the memories and the narratives that people have, because as soon as we open our mouth, typically, it's going to get distorted a little bit by our ego and so on. But obviously, you've got massive amounts of contemplation and self introspection,
clearing,
and communication,
and more clearing, yeah. And not that my ego doesn't come into play, and sometimes I just laugh. I mean, it's part of us.
Yes, of course.
But I say, get your grimy hands off the steering wheel.
Exactly.
And get in the back seat and be the consulting you were meant to be.
That's the same thing I say on the show all the time. Same metaphor. I just said it this past week.
Cool. And it's true, though, right? It's like we've given it our steering wheel. And it's supposed to be our divine, right?
Yeah, and what you said was, you said sitting with things, like sitting with those things. We think in the body, oh, let me go find the Holy Grail, or let me go find something like. But it's not that. It's actually a very human thing, I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I know in latter 2019, I guess prepping for the whole COVID, whatever that was. Great idea that we created so everybody could go inside.
Right.
I started learning to sit with my emotions.
Yeah.
And I'd never done that. And I would be like, I'm angry. And, my wife's a practitioner, and she'd say, well, you want to fix it? And I'll be like, no, I want to be angry. And it was crazy because when you sit with an emotion, I think yours goes a little bit deeper and a little bit broader. But when you sit with an emotion and you really sit with it, you're not sitting with the event or the pattern or the conflict or the person that you're blaming it on. You're not. You're actually sitting with the anger. And it was amazing, because the first time I did it, I was sitting on the edge of the bed and I'm going, okay, wait a minute. It's not about her. It's not about him. It's just anger. Like, I'm going to feel the anger. Okay, so I feel the anger. And in a minute and a half, I watched it just like dissipate. Like everything just turned into little pixels and went poof.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, that's trippy.
Yeah.
I did it with grief.
Right.
Which we've all done that. I did it when I woke up with grief, because I had a bunch of stuff happen, as a lot of people do. But about a year and a half ago, when my wife went back to Australia, I sat with grief. And man, that was
hard.
It was hard, but that was probably about a 3 or 4 day period where I hadn't had those type of activations or DNA conversions since I was homeless. The first 2 years I was awake, and it was just extraordinary. Now, was it pretty? No. There were some ugly things I saw, some severe sexual distortion. Go figure that. Okay. It was almost scary, but sitting with, to me, going inside is sitting with the body itself because it's so much more than this, right? I think that's what you're saying. Can you add to anything on that? Or?
Well, I'd go back to looking at it like a space suit, and it has capabilities, and our ego has, and the external world has wired it improperly, or our growing up years have wired it improperly. And so we have these emotional reactions, and when you start paying attention to the emotions, it takes you into the body, and let's say it's in the solar plexus or it's in the heart. When you actually go in there and feel into the body, into the chakras, all right, and you're going to primarily feel it in the trunk of the body, and you sit with it, it doesn't say it's angry. It says it's tight, it's pressure, it's on fire. There's a knot in there, right? I'm caught. Okay, so feel being caught. And as you bring your consciousness into the feelings of the body and let the body explain it to you, what's there, instead of the interpretations of the mind, all right, then it feels like a 3-year-old child, and it is. It's like a 3-year-old. You sit with it, and they just, scuff their knee, and they're all upset, but they're fine. Right? And so the energy comes out of the subconscious, and you just allow it to release.
Yeah.
There is, I learned through just being conscious with it. I help people and teach a technique that's called the release technique. That is not mine. You can go online and look it up. And they done a magnificent job of really defining things if you need that for the mind. The whole point, though, is you have to feel it. And the same, Ho'oponopono. Okay? So a lot of people...
I can't say that word, but I know what it is. And I use it.
Takes a while. And we're all up here. And it's not like, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me. It's in here. Yeah. It's coming into the body and feeling that energy. And I always envision moving the energy out in front of me, rising it up to my higher self, and saying to myself, my higher self to myself, I'm so sorry I'm this stupid that I've done this. Please forgive me. I love you and thank you, because when you thank the divine, it has to fix it. Yeah. And it will take the energy up and out of you.
Yeah. I love that. I have a conversation. It's, I guess, a constant dialogue.
Okay.
Like you were talking about, it's always been there. Well, there's this part of me that's always been there. And so I have gotten to a point where I have enough self-respect and self-love for the human being aspect, that part of me, the brave part of me. This it's such that I remember having a conversation, or a level of conversation, and it was like my soul said to me, "You're learning from me, but I'm learning from you."
Oh,
and I went,
perfect.
"Oh, bingo!"
It's the dance.
Yeah,
it's the dance between the primal and the enlightened.
Yeah.
All right. Our soul is already enlightened. The primal, we came into third dimension to experience primal energies, and we're very in the primal energy here. And it's not to deny either. The primal learns from the soul, and the soul learns from the primal. Right. It's a dance.
Yeah. It's that paradox. I love that you used that word. I realized that early on. Like, I kept seeing things, and it's like, wait a minute. If it looks like it's this, it's the opposite. But the reality is they're the same. And I didn't understand. I just knew every time I saw paradoxical things presented to me, I knew I had an opportunity. It took me several years to actually figure that out. But
it's like an initiation when you see it both showing up at the same time, the extremes happening at the same time. And are you going to be over here in despair because you're in this darkness, or are you going to be over here and the light's going on, but you're caught in both of them? And it's like, how do you just be with both of them?
You know what? I think there's a lot of people going through that right now.
Oh, most definitely. It's so chaotic energetically out there, and it has been since 2020, of the extremes. Yeah. You hear one thing and it's horrible, and then you hear the exact opposite, and it's like, so which one do you believe? Believe this.
That's right.
Believe this.
Yeah.
The more that we sit in paradox and in presence, right? all this is just the chaos
Right.
being released and going around us.
Yeah.
And we won't get caught in it. And your feet will take you exactly where you belong.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed this. I noticed this started about maybe with COVID. What I noticed was, and from a soul knowing, I know that because of what we're all here to do, when I reawoke in 2011 and chose to go homeless for 2 years, I went through a lot of what people have been going through these last couple of years, which is, detaching really from all these different belief systems, the house, the relationships, the children, the jobs, money, home, all that stuff. So I'm seeing that happen now, and I've noticed that I used to say at that time, and I actually did it, I was holding the hand of an angel in one hand and a demon in the other. And so very recently, like in the last month, I've run into at least 3 people I can think of, and they said the same thing to me. Why am I at my highest level of expansion, yet there's this crazy distorted chaos in my life, which is typically relationship, job, home,
Exactly.
all the root chakra stuff.
Where it shows.
But is that something that's become very, very prevalent now after these 2.5 years of COVID?
Well, I think it's always been there. It's whether or not you've been aware of it and wanted to actually clear it. It's strong. It's like, which one are you feeding?
Yeah.
Right? And, going back to where we began, and I was talking about, my trigger is my trigger. Something happens out here and I'm triggered. Well, that's my energy responding. And trust me, I have had direct experiences of clearing those triggers and then years later being confronted with the same thing and nothing moves in my body. I'm like, wow, I cleared it, right? So what are we doing? We've been taught to be destructive. We've been used in a lot of mischievous ways, to put it lightly, and
malicious ways.
Yeah,
You're you're nicer than me
sometimes. And
the Irish is coming out.
And as we go into that dark and neutralize it within us, we start being the creators. And this is what we're really here to learn to do, to come into, because we're coming into a new world, and we can't, it's not going to be useful for us to keep creating the destructive.
Yeah.
But that we need to come back into our creative forces and do that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but we spend so much time, and you've seen it evolve since 2012 in these communities where people are talking about you got to protect yourself, and sage and dark energies coming at me. And I'm not getting into semantics or anything. I'm just trying to make a point. But it seems to me now that the only thing that's dark, I guess, is our own stuff that we haven't looked at or we don't want to look at, right? Like
that's what feeds the dark.
Exactly.
And then they feed off of us.
That's right.
They're in the 4th dimension and it's real.
Yeah, of course.
And so I do healing work, but I prefer teaching because, yes, I can lighten the load, but if you've got conditions that are creating negative thoughts and lack of love for self, it's going to just come back. You've got a target on your back. Your loosh is out there.
That's right.
So it's best to actually clear it in yourself so then you're not feeding anything.
No, I love this because, and that's what I always, people will say, and we all experienced it. We've all experienced it. Like, why is this happening? Why does this keep happening? Well, there's something, and I know it sounds cliche and new age-ish, but there's something in me. And really, when you get right down to it, it goes back to it's never them, it's always me. And something else you said, which is understanding that there's something bigger than all of us. And if you have the desire and you make the request, you will, knock and the door will be open. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
So yeah, that's. It sounds like you are like a lot of the healers or practitioners that I've watched kind of come out in the last couple of years,
Yeah.
which is I'm not going to fix you. I'm going to take you to a place where you can remember how to fix yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes back to the crust of the earth. What is it that is our burden? And looking at it more as, how do I transform that energy within me? Because that ignites our creative spark. Yeah. So instead of making it wrong that I've got this destructive energy or these negative emotions, oh, that's how I'm going to learn how to be creative. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And there's been definitely, I don't know your thoughts, but this summer, what are we, almost 2 months into the 3 months of the summer? Oh my God, I can't believe there's a Soulogy Fest in less than 30 days. SoulogyFest.com, online, live stream tickets.
Yay.
We're going to make it. But anyway, I don't want to get off track on that. But over the last, this summer, it's been a hot summer energetically.
Yes.
It's been a lot of stuff getting illuminated to be looked at. But at the same time, there seems to be a creative explosion. I know as the individual goes, so goes the collective, at least in terms of potential, right? Some people anchor certain things, but what I'm seeing is an explosion of the creative, a resurfacing of a true divine masculine energy, and a lot of like massive root chakra transformation.
Good.
Is that what you're picking up on? Or do you pick up on collective stuff?
I do and I don't. I'll watch other people to get a lot of the collective things, and then I'm either like, yeah, I'm there, or no, that's their perspective and I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I don't really look a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I am present in my body in front of me.
Yeah.
And there's many of us that are meant to do this, and there's many that are doing the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Soulogy Fest last year, Soulogy Fest this year, and really Soulogy is a community, through all of our platforms. When I went to Soulogy Fest last year, we kept it at 100 people because I wanted it to be a great experience, which it was. Thank everybody. But out of 100 people, I bet you 70 of them, maybe even 80 of them, were just like you. To varying degrees.
Right.
Some are a little more open, some a little more reserved, and I'm just fascinated by it because, like I did a show 2 weeks ago, I just opened mic, anybody want to come on? 3 women came on, all different, all had different spins, all had something to offer. None of them had ever been on video.
Right.
The third one
Beautiful.
had met a man 12 years earlier, got married 10 years ago, and then over the last 10 years had 8 kids. They live in Byron Bay, Australia, and she said all of my family, even the little ones, communicate with our ET aspects every day.
That's awesome.
So it's like,
Yeah.
this is a Earth is literally a universally seeded planet.
Yes.
It really is. I got a
beyond what we understand at this point.
Exactly. I got a transmission, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. It was very real. In other words, the clarity just went anchor. And it was, when you guys get done here, at least potentially, you'll be able to go anywhere in the multiverses because of the universal coding you carry. Right? And that's pretty wild. We're the mutts, really.
I graduated Earth.
I graduated
Right?
Earth. It's funny, too, because you mentioned the 13,000 years. Franco's narrative was that we had agreed to, of course, do everything we do, but that 13,000 years ago, a group of us came and said, look, as long as we're going to do this in the stretch run, why don't we really jack this up and distort the matrix totally?
Well, we sure did a good job of that, didn't we?
Exactly.
So just remember, we're the distortions.
That's right.
Yeah.
We
created them.
Yeah. And even if you go back to they knew this. I mean, what is it, the Nag Hammadi?
Yeah.
A quarter of those pages are all about the fourth dimension, the archons, and distortion, and it's really some fascinating reading. Really, if you ever get, I mean, it's a lot, but. So what? Let me ask you this. Okay, so you are, forget labels, but we have to use words.
What am I? Is that what you want? Is that where you're
That's
going?
how we got here, isn't it? That's how we all landed here.
Right.
But in terms of like what you do, because so many people, their, what do you call it? Their existence, their livelihood, their way of life, their lifestyle, their duty, their purpose, whatever, is beginning to kind of all come into one alignment. So you mentioned, you alluded healer, teacher. I think you're more comfortable with. What type of stuff do you do? How can people find it?
I have a website, and it's expandingyourconsciousness.com.
Expandingyourconsciousness.com.
And it's UR for expanding your consciousness. Expanding UR. And that gives like an overview. I do what I call source healings. A lot of times people come to me with entities attached, that it's more than just the loosh. We've had many lifetimes, and we've been in third dimensional Earth with no other dimensions open, and it was pretty dark. And so we allied with some of the dark force, and they were allowed to feed off of us in exchange for them protecting us from any other dark force as we completely closed down who we were, so we could do third dimensional life. And it wasn't easy, but it was easier than knowing who we are. You know how hard it is now, knowing who you are and being in the third dimension. And we've got fourth and fifth already anchored in. So I help clear them, clear contracts. It's very personal, and I've had trainings for 20 years, before I ever fully brought together what I do. And most of it is I open doors, and your soul, your higher self, your team, and the divine come in and do work on you. And I get told some of it. And I clear chakras, because our chakras hold all of our past lives, and most pain that we're going through in this life, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, is due to past life experience. Whenever I work with people, it drops down. Now, I don't read past lives. We go in to resolve the issue.
Exactly.
And it just drops the energy, and we resolve it. And so that's like the healing work in a nutshell, but it's broad.
Do you read people?
Yeah, that's I'm clear audio.
Can you read me?
Well, I have been the whole time we've been talking.
You want to? I love to. This is one of the things I love about Soulogy, is to put stuff out there that happens privately. I'm okay because I'm like an open. But yeah, and I'm not. I have no idea what you're going to say.
Neither do I.
Well,
but we've been interacting, and our interactions are the read. Okay, we've been playing off of each other.
Yeah, true.
But is it there's something you want to know?
No. I just was wondering, because I don't. I have a lot of people that will. I'm going to read this, or this is what I see, and I'm like, no. It never, very rarely resonates. What the interaction's what resonates, and I was just curious, because you're. I don't know. You're kind of like the whole package to me, and I'm not trying to inflate your ego, because I know I can't. But it's.
That's my problem if you do. And then I got to clean it up.
Yeah, I don't know, just as a sample, because I know there's a lot of different reads on what reading is, but I love what you just said right now, how you've been reading me the whole way. That's why what we're actually doing with each other, in essence.
Yeah. So what I do in sessions, and I used to do tarot for reading, and I stopped. And I was told by my root teacher he would, come after me if he ever found me doing it, but I needed to at the time for financial reasons. And but a psychic read is very different than a spiritual read or an empathic read.
Okay.
Okay, and a psychic read, you're actually going like into the 13th floor of a building and getting information on a timeline. And we've been on so many different timelines, we could shift it.
Okay.
All right. Now,
What's a spiritual read then?
So spiritual read I would connect with your higher self.
Okay.
And I would get information. Typically, I ask for what is it that you want to know. Right. Now, I will say that I feel a congestion in your heart and your throat, and it just makes sense. It's not intense, but it's always there, and it's the separation from your wife. And early on they said to me, well, she's there because she's needed there. And you're carrying on for the after when she comes back. You're building the foundation for her to come back and move this here. Does that make sense? There's ley lines down there that she has to be connected to. Yeah. It's part of her journey. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I it's...
No, I knew that, and I'm glad I asked you because, we realized that whenever the information came in,
it's like resolving it within yourself. And how do you do that? I mean, it's a little bit each day, when it shows up, to just be with it. Yeah. And that it's perfectly okay, giving yourself permission.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's funny too because I came here. I've always been a writer, and I've done a little bit of what you might call conscious rap, and I've done some melody and stuff like that over the years. But I've never been able to really focus on it because I've got so much other stuff on my plate. Right. So once we got into this year, I was like, okay, and I had a conversation with my soul. Okay, as I understand it, these are the 5 things I want to do. It was a come to Jesus meeting, and I said, okay, well, it's Sacred Union, it's Soulogy, it's Soulogy Network, it's SouLSPEAKS 5D, SoulogyOneStudios, and the 5th one is my own personal development. I guess we might say as an artist or whatever that is. I've got to explore this, right? So the funny thing is, I get called here. I arrive on a Monday at 9 a.m. I drove 20 hours. The next morning I get up. I come to the office. Some guy who got called here 2 days before me from Venice Beach, one-way ticket to Sedona, and his life's falling apart, and he's like, what am I doing? Anyway, that night, we get into the studio with Ty, who's a genius, and we do a studio session. I'd never done one, but something started, and it was all what you're talking about. It was like all here in the lungs and the throat and the heart, and I've been feeling it every single day. And you said, what do you do? One bite at a time, right? But right. I'm noticing that if I call it alchemy. Mm-hmm. I feel like the emotions are unique to us.
They are.
And that what has been a great weakness and sustenance for those 4th-dimensional assholes, excuse me, we can actually convert that. So what I've found is I get into these situations, and the reason I'm telling people this is because it is very physical. Mm-hmm. I can't explain it. I can't go back. Mm-hmm. And so even my wife probably doesn't understand it, but what it is something's happening to my physical body. I'll sit in there with the guys, I'll start shaking, and I'm very comfortable in front of the camera, but it's all right here. And it feels like, almost like a cone. Like when I hit the harmonics and all of a sudden I'm singing, like, what the hell's going on?
Well, it's more like this.
Okay.
All right.
There you
go. You're going like this. But you've held it. Right? You've held it for lifetimes. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. And why you're shaking is that you're finally able to get the expression out. Yeah. And the thing that we don't understand about the body is that when we as a soul come onto the earth, we have a meeting with the Great Mother, and she aligns us with an elemental. That is the same elemental that manufactures the body for us every single time we come in. Okay. So this body is the body and controlled by your elemental, right? So we talk about the primal. Okay. Right? And this is coming in from your higher self. This is coming in from your soul directive. And you've been working many lifetimes for that primal and enlightened energy to anchor into this elemental. And the elemental is, making its adjustments, so that this can be expressed. There's very specific frequencies that are meant to come through you that are going to help people's ascension.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's why you're using your voice now. It's all in preparation and connecting to the tribe. I mean, this is something that is wonderful, because you're connecting to a tribe, and the tribe is connecting with each other.
Yeah. That's been the same. Yeah, I've watched that for years. That for years, and so that's been a saving grace.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah.
When because it's not like
Hey, it's a lonely road.
I used to say that all the time. Even
it's a lonely one.
I used to write that all the time the first couple of years. I was Soulogy was just me on a flip phone sending up poems with 400, 600 people in it for the first couple of years, and I used to say that all the time. Faith is a lonely existence.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear this. I really appreciate it, and it absolutely resonates. And
so, have you thought about moving here?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well,
can you move away from family in Arkansas?
I don't have family in Arkansas. No.
Okay.
It's a long story, but it's interesting because so I went on the streets. I came off for 3 years, went back, and I was pulled into a little town called Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay.
And I stayed there 2 months, and then I went, living out of a suitcase. I had one. I think you had two.
I had two.
And so anyway, what happened was the next year, my wife and I had, we wouldn't even do video. She wouldn't let me do video until 6 weeks before the first time she came, or 2 weeks, I think. But anyway, so she, after 17 months, she comes over, and we went to Texas and stayed at a relative's house, and then we got booted out, and we ended up in the same place, Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Uh-huh.
And then the next year I end up there again. And then the next year she comes back. We're married now, and we spend some time there. Then we go to a conference and did some grid work. This is early 2020. And then she tells me one day, we need to move there. So there's something going on with Arkansas. I'm also...
Well, you know that it sits, the area you're talking about, sits on the largest continuous crystal bed.
Yeah.
Right? And it goes from Little Rock over to Mount Ida in the Ozarks, and then straight north just to southern Missouri.
Yep.
And that bed, and that's why I was pulled there. I was living in the Bay Area, and I had to move, and they kept showing me a map to my friend's house in Arkansas, and I'm like, I'm a coastal person. I love the ocean.
Me too.
I am not going to Arkansas. Well, resistance is futile.
Well,
so.
Yeah. And
it's the bed, though, because it was...
Yeah.
The Atlanteans used it.
Oh, I've had so many memories, so many dimensional experiences.
Yeah.
I've talked about them a lot, but Arkansas has been... What I was told in my own intel was that there were certain spots, not too many, like maybe 6, that were of the same, I guess, frequency caliber, or potentially were, maybe they were closed down or being saved or something, as Sedona. And that Arkansas was one of them. And that's part of the reason that her and I were there, part of the, like even doing this Soulogy Fest, it doesn't make any sense. But the mother kept coming in and telling me, you're going to do this. You're going to do it your way. You're going to do it through your own, individual aligning force to your best of your ability, and you can't do anything that's been done before.
Yeah.
You can't just have a speaker come up and then another speaker. It has to be something totally.
Your creative force must come forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's not just me, but I've had friends. In fact, when I got the call to come here, I was about 3 hours coming from East Texas, and I tried to do a live with the multi-stream, and it wouldn't work. So I called my friend in the Bay Area. Hey, can you check me on Facebook Messenger if my audio's okay, or is it the app? Yeah. So I called her, and she said, no, everything's good. Because I got to tell you something. Last night I went into communion. She's very lit. She's an ET.
Yeah.
And she says, I went into communion, and I was in the Saddleback Mountains. And it's like, what am I doing here? And then next thing you know, she's somehow or another, there's a connection to the Ozark Mountains. So I'm talking to her on the phone. I said, you never guess where I'm headed. And so, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. So as far as coming here, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, right now, I'm houseless again by technical terms. Mm-hmm. All of our stuff's in storage. We were told to put it in storage. We knew there was some higher stuff going on. We know she's down there doing the work, and I'm doing the same. But I'm just going to go do the festival.
And see where it goes.
Maybe go to a fishing camp for like 10 days and just lay there and do nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately we've both felt this, and I think other people can relate to this, that we're free souls. We're going to be traveling and doing our work together all over the world.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's the way I feel.
Yeah. Yay.
God, we're going to have to get you back on. We've been an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't mean to keep you so long.
Well, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would love to do this again before
Absolutely.
I leave. I'm leaving in, what is, probably like Tuesday or Wednesday or something. But we could always do it online, too, you know. I mean,
sure. Definitely.
Yeah, and I'd love to, just help expand
Continue.
awareness of what you're doing. And, I don't know what else to say other than thank you. Endless gratitude, love, respect, honor, and reverence, and all blessings to you and all your endeavors. And thank you for the information, the personal information, confirmation,
Hope
validation.
It helps.
Yeah, it will. Okay, everybody, we'll be back in 41 minutes with Angela Joelle, which means we could be talking about centaurs. She lives in Montana in the mountains. She has a conscious family. They grow conscious food, etc. But we'll see you soon, and we'll probably do some music tonight. So thank you for your continued love and support and contributions. Allow us to keep doing this every day by the seat of our pants. And that's not a complaint. That's just the way 5D is. Nobody gets a savings account anymore. So if you have one, say bye. Peace out. Thank you so much, everybody.